Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here for my final look breakdown of the Week 3 NFL main slate on DraftKings. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name is DK. I make daily videos breaking down NBA, NFL, PGA, and esports daily fantasy sports slates. Real quick, I do want to say thank you guys again for all support. Currently right now, 5.05 thousand subscribers now on YouTube. The easiest way to support me, guys, since all the content is free, is just leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos, you know when to go live. Also, if you guys cannot watch the YouTube videos, I do upload on Apple Podcasts. The link will be in the description below to the DK DFS show. But with that all out of the way, let's jump into the video. So before we talk about players and their prices, let's take a look at these the over-unders and the spreads for these for the NFL games here. So real quick, let's run through these. Bears, Falcons, a 47 over-under. Falcons are 3.5-point favorites. Bengals, Eagles is a 47.5 over-under. Eagles are 4-point favorites. Texans, Steelers, 46 over-under. Steelers are 4-point favorites. Raiders, Patriots, a 47 over-under. Patriots are 6-point favorites. Rams, Bills, 47 over-under as well. Bills are 1.5-point favorites. 49ers, Giants. 49ers are favored, even with the backup quarterback, 3.5-point favorites, 42.5 over-under. Titans, Vikings, 49 over-under, 49.5 over-under. Titans are 3-point favorites. Washington and Cleveland, a 45 over-under. The Browns are 7-point favorites here. Panthers, Chargers is a 43.5 over-under. Chargers are 6.5-point favorites. Colts and Jets, the biggest spread here, 11.5-point favorites. The Colts are 44 over-under. Cowboys, Seahawks, this is the game that's going to be super popular. Obviously, a 57 over-under. Seahawks are 5-point favorites. Lions, Cardinals, also I think it's going to be pretty popular. 55 over-under. Cardinals, 6-point favorites. Bucks, Broncos, to 42.5 over-under. Bucks are 6-point favorites. All right, so we'll start with quarterback. I'll run through quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and then we'll talk about defense at the end. I'll talk about cash plays, GPP plays, what I'm kind of thinking, and then go from there. So quarterbacks start at the top, and normally for cash games, I do like spending down a quarterback, but this is an interesting week. There are a ton of really good plays at the top for quarterback that I think you can spend up a quarterback in cash this week. There's enough value, in my opinion, to do it. So I think it's worth it, actually, on this slate to spend up on quarterback. There are some spend down quarterbacks that are playable, but a little bit riskier, right? I think I feel more comfortable spending up the extra $1,000 or $1,500 for the quarterbacks I feel really, really comfortable with. So who are those quarterbacks I like? Well, obviously Dak and Russell Wilson, right? 7-3 and 7-2 respectively, the highest over-under of the day. This one is projected to be a shootout. Cowboys offensive court, they even said like they're going to run fast. They're not going to try to play slow so Russell Wilson doesn't get the ball. They're going to try to score as many points as they can, which is great to hear for DFS, right? So really like both quarterbacks. Both quarterbacks do have a little bit of rushing upside as well. Dak had 3 rushing touchdowns last week. We're not going to get that again, but still good to see that he obviously can run it in. Same with Russell Wilson, right? He can definitely go for 50 yards in the ground and a touchdown. So really, really like both quarterbacks this week. All their wide receivers are super cheap, so I think getting a lot of exposure to this game for cash games is the way to go. You can obviously game stack in GPPs as well. If that's the route you want to go, it's going to be popular. But like I said, this game has all the makings for a shootout. So really, really like both quarterbacks, and I think they're both playable in cash games. Josh Allen at 6'9", he's had a really, really good start to the year with 33 and 37 fantasy points. He's a guy that can do it on the ground. The matchup's okay, but again, I do prefer the guys above him. I do prefer Dak. I do prefer Russell Wilson. So Josh Allen's a guy I'm probably not going to get to this week. Kyler Murray at 6'8". Again, love Kyler Murray. Played him last week, 33 fantasy points. Leaning towards playing him again in cash. I really like him in both formats. It's just the rushing upside, right? 91 and 67 yards on the ground first 2 games. Really good to see. Now, we're probably not going to keep up that pace, but he is running the ball more this year than he did last year. So, in Detroit's defense, nothing to be scared about. The second highest over-under of the day. So, really, really like Kyler Murray as well. Like I said, I think I'm leaning towards getting to one of these guys at the top at quarterback in my cash game lineup. I just feel a lot more comfortable with them. Cam Newton, another guy I really like at 6'7". 44 pass attempts last game. Now, it was probably due to them playing from behind. The first game only had 19 pass attempts. So it does kind of depend on the game script, right? If they're playing from ahead, I think, the Patriots do want to slow it down. So that does worry me a little bit, but the positives are his rushing upside, right? 75 and 47 yards in the ground, 2 touchdowns in the ground in the first 2 weeks, 4 total. So he was running the ball more. He's running the ball more this year than he did, in the previous last couple of years there for Carolina. So that's good to see. It's a good matchup too against the Raiders. So Cam Newton is someone I'm definitely considering. But I think I do slightly prefer Kyler Murray. I think I slightly prefer Dak and Russell Wilson to him. But I still have interest in Cam Newton. Matt Ryan at 6'6". I mean, they want to pass the ball. They want to air it out. 54 and 36 pass attempts the first couple of games. It's a tougher spot, though. So right now, nothing more than a contrarian play. We do have Julio status up in the air. If you want to pair Matt Ryan with like Calvin Ridley, like the target should be there in GPPs. But don't think I can go there in cash games. Let's see. Deshaun Watson, it's a tougher spot here against this Pittsburgh defense is really solid. I do like, Deshaun Watson does have that rushing upside too. Hasn't really shown it too much the first couple games, but it is there. Like, he can definitely go for like 50 yards in the ground and a touchdown, right? I feel more comfortable with Kyler. I feel more comfortable with Dak and Russell Wilson than I do Deshaun Watson. Now, that doesn't make Deshaun Watson out of play, right? He's someone that I think you can look to in GPPs, but probably not for cash games for me, just because of the matchup. Big Ben at 6'4" has been decent. Playable in GPPs. You compare him with Juju or Deontay Johnson. Both have been really, really good. But like I said, I like the upside a little bit more with Kyler, with Dak, and with Russell Wilson for cash. Stafford's at 6'3". I think he's going to fly under the radar. But this is the second highest over under of the day. We have Galladay potentially coming back, which could be good. Obviously, that would be really good news for Stafford. You could definitely pair Stafford with Galladay. Now, the concern with Galladay, obviously, is the hamstring injury. He's not 100%. He even said that himself. But this game, like Dallas-Seattle, has all the makings for a shootout. So Stafford does intrigue me. I don't think a lot of people get to him on this slate because he hasn't really been amazing the first couple games so far. But this is a game you could see some upside here for Stafford. So he intrigues me for GPPs. I'm not going to get to Burrow at 6'2". Brady at 6'1", I'll probably pass. I'm not going to play Philip Rivers either or Tannehill, even though he had a good game last week. I'm going to pass there. Herbert's a guy at 5'9" that is someone that I am interested in. And this, if I was going to spend down, Herbert is a guy that I would consider for cash games, even for GPPs too, right? Because it's a cheap price point, great matchup. I've been stressing target players against Carolina the first couple games, and it's worked out. We have cheap targets, right? Like Keenan Allen's cheap, Eckler's at a reasonable price point, so Mike Williams is viable on the slate. I think Herbert is a spend-down quarterback that I'm very, very, very much considering right now. It's the risk-reward factor, right? He's a rookie. He's only played one game. He's 5'9". Do you feel more comfortable with Justin Herbert at 5'9" or Kyler Murray at 6'8" against the Lions defense? It's a tough one, right? I think I still slightly do prefer Kyler or even a little bit more for Dak and Russell Wilson than I do Herbert. But Herbert at his price point makes him in play. The matchup's great too, so I am for sure considering Herbert today. Wentz at 5'8" also doable. Hasn't been great this year. Philadelphia has kind of been struggling a bit, but this is a bounce-back matchup against Cincinnati. Not really afraid of them defensively. So Wentz, another cheap option I think you can consider. Also Trubisky as well, 5'7". Like, there are some cheap options down here I think you can go to if that's the direction you want to go for cash, you want to spend down. If you want to pair Trubisky with Allen Robinson, who has yet to have a breakout game, but he has the upside, and it's a great, great matchup here against Atlanta. They should probably be playing from behind, which is really good. So I do like that Trubisky Allen Robinson stack. I think it'll be somewhat popular, but the matchup's great. The price point's decent. It's Mitch Trubisky, right? Not the best quarterback. He's up and down, right? But if you get him on his good side, he has potential to have upside. He's a guy that can do a little bit on the ground as well. So also have interest in Trubisky as a cheap option. I'm not going to get to Baker. Again, Tyrod's out. That's why Herbert's in play. Jimmy G's out. I'm not going to consider these backup quarterbacks. Like Goff, I don't want to play anyone against the Bills. Daniel Jones, I don't want to play anyone against the 49ers. Kirk Cousins has really been struggling. The price is cheap. You compare him with Thielen and GPPs, but I'm not going to look there in cash. Carr actually is intriguing here at 5'4" in a decent matchup against the Patriots. Another spend-down quarterback that you can look to. Again, I'm not going to get to the backup quarterbacks. I'm not going to get to Driscoll with no Drew Lock. Bridgewater, I don't want to really target players against that Chargers defense. So that's really, I'm not going to play Sam Darnold at 5K. I think that's really it for me. So like I said, there's a couple different routes you can go in cash. I'm right now leaning towards spending up on my quarterback in cash game. So whether it be Russell or Dak or Kyler Murray, even Cam Newton I think is in play, or spend down on a guy like Herbert or Wentz, Trubisky. That's kind of where I'm thinking for cash games. So let's move on to running back. Running back, we have McCaffrey out, I think, at least 4 weeks in the IR. Zeke out at 8-3. Well, this is an interesting one because there's a lot of really, really good plays in the 6K range. But Zeke at the top, I feel good about. It's just the workload is going to be there no matter what. He's game flow independent. If they fall behind early, they'll still utilize him. If they're playing from ahead, he will get a ton of work on the ground. Dak Prescott vultured 3 of his touchdowns last game, a little bit tilting because I had Zeke myself and had potential to win a GPP. So that was, again, a little bit tilting, but really like Zeke. I think his floor is super, super high, especially in this type of matchup too against in the highs over under in a game that should be a shootout. So really, really like Zeke. I don't know if he's a must play, but someone I'm looking to in both formats. The reason I don't think he's an absolute must play is because there's a lot of good plays in the 6K range. But I am definitely leaning towards probably trying to get Zeke in my lineup for cash because I just think the floor is super, super high. Henry is going to be low owned. He was the chalk. I actually did get off him last week. Got a little bit lucky. The workload was there, right? He got no work through the air, which was my concern with him. They scored a bunch of points, but none of them on the ground. So like I said, I think I got a little bit lucky with the fade there. But that's my worry again with Derrick Henry is he's just not a guy that's going to catch a lot of balls. So he kind of, at times can be a little bit touchdown dependent, but he is their clear workhorse back, right? And if they're playing from ahead, he is going to get a ton of carries. Like he has upside to go for 30-plus carries. We saw it in week 1. So Henry intrigues me as a GPP contrarian play because he was a bust last week, but I'm not going to go there in cash games. Cook, kind of the same thing. I don't think I can pull the trigger on him in cash games because his Minnesota offense has been terrible, but Cook is their workhorse back. He's a good pass catching back too. So another guy that intrigues me for GPPs, but I don't think I can pull the trigger on him in cash games. Jacobs at 7-3. They have him listed as questionable. I think he's going to be good to go. He was a limited participant on Friday. My concern with Josh Jacobs is if they fall behind, do they phase him out a bit? But the good thing is that he has had 4 and 3 catches the last couple weeks. That was the concern last year, was he just wasn't doing a whole lot through the air. But if they are playing from ahead, they're going to utilize Josh Jacobs a good amount here. It's a decent matchup too, so Jacobs is someone that's playable, but I don't think he's like my favorite play for his price. Let's see, Jonathan Taylor is going to be the chalk this week for cash games. Do you have to play him in cash? I don't think he's an absolute must, but he is someone that looks really, really good. And definitely one of the top cash game plays in my opinion. The reason being, they should be playing from ahead. This Colts offense line is good. Again, they're 11.5-point favorites. Jets defense has not been good. Philip Rivers loves utilizing the running backs through the air. And Nyheim Hines' snaps went way down. Like Taylor was just their complete workhorse back. So if that's going to continue, if he's going to continue to be their every down back, workhorse back in a good matchup in a game they should be playing ahead, should get a ton of carries, I think Taylor looks really, really good. Now, like I said, I don't think he's necessarily a must play, but another guy I'm leaning towards playing in cash games. Chubb and Kareem Hunt are playable, but only GPPs. The reason being is they're going to split the work. So I don't want to look to, backs are only like 50% of the touches for cash games. I want to go to the workhorse backs for cash. Again, these guys are playable in GPPs. We saw the big upside there from Chubb in week 2, but I'm not going to pull the trigger on any of these guys in cash games. Eckler intrigues me at 6-8. Reason being, the matchup's great, right? Like I said, want to target players against Carolina. Downside, Josh Kelly. He's getting a lot of work. It's literally like a 50-50 split. Positives, Chargers love working their running backs. Like they are getting a ton of work. And he had more work through the air last game with Herbert at quarterback. I think that is definitely a positive for him because I don't think Tyrod Taylor, who will keep it himself a lot, is going to go to the backs a lot. Whereas Herbert, I think, will check down to the backs more. And like I said, Eckler's a great pass catching back. He's been really, really good when he's getting the touches, right? 19 carries, 84 yards, 16 carries, 93 yards, averaging like over 5 yards a carry. He's a guy that's really, really good pass catching back too, and it's a great matchup. So this is a tricky one. I want to play Eckler. I think he's playable in cash. I do. But the concern, my worry is Josh Kelly, right? Josh Kelly's there, and he's going to get a ton of work too. So He's playable, but the only issue I have is just the kind of the 50-50 split. Connor, another guy that intrigues me at 6'7". Like, there's a lot of really good plays in the 6K range here for running back. Connor is one of them. I was going to take a wait and see their approach in week 2 because I was worried with his ankle, what are they going to do with Benny Snell, who played well in week 1? Well, it was the James Conner show. He got a ton of work. Now, he did get a lot of that on one carry near the end of the game, but this is a good matchup here against Houston. Right, Houston has not been good defensively. Pittsburgh does love going to the running backs through the air too. He only has had 2 catches the first couple weeks. I think that definitely has upside to go for like 5 or 6 catches. So Connor's another guy that intrigues me in this mid-range, 6K range, but I think there are a couple other better options for cash. So he's playable, kind of like Eckler, playable in cash games, but I don't know if I'm going to go there. Like I think Taylor, I think Zeke, and I think I'll get to one more running back who I think looks really, really good in cash games. But like I said, I think they are playable if you want to go that direction to get a little bit different. Carson at 6'6", I think more suited for GBPs. The workload hasn't been amazing. He's been really good. And he has been catching the ball more, which is good to see. It's a great matchup too, but still not like getting he's not being the complete workhorse back, which does worry me a bit at this price. It's a great matchup though, and if you want, if you want to just jam in as many players as you can in this game, then you can go Carson. But I feel a little bit more comfortable with Zeke, who's going to be out there basically the whole game, whereas Carson, not as much. But I think he is another guy. Like I said, the 6K range is great for running back that is playable in GPPs. Mostert out. We'll talk about a couple cheap running backs here for San Francisco in a bit. Miles Sanders is the last guy for me at running back for cash. I'm playing him in cash games. I think he looks like the best play here at this price. 6.4K, great matchup. My concern week 2 was how much are they going to work him with dealing with that hamstring injury. Well, he got the full workload. 20 carries, 3 catches, and 7 targets. He's a great pass catching back. And like I said, the matchup is really good against Cincinnati here. So really, really like Miles Sanders for both formats. He's going to be popular. I'm fine eating the chalk. Now, like I said, if you want to get different, there's guys going to be super popular. Taylor's going to be super popular, and Miles Sanders are going to be super popular this week. If you don't necessarily have to play these guys in cash, because there's other options, right? You have Eckler, you have Connor. I think Carson, you could look to him. You have Josh Jacobs if he's available, right? So there's other options. You don't necessarily have to play those guys, but right now, that's where I'm leaning towards in cash games. Again, Saquon out. We'll talk about that in a bit. Fournette, I'm not going to go to these Tampa Bay running backs. If you want to take a shot on one of them in GPPs, but there's not enough discount for me. Again, Hunt, Chubb, playable in GPPs, but not for me in cash. Drake's another guy that in cash games intrigues me at 6K. This matchup is great against Detroit. He hasn't been amazing so far, but he's getting about 70% of the snaps, which is good to see. He's a good pass-catching running back as well, and the matchup's great. Detroit, like I said, I want 2 target players against Detroit's defense too. So Kenny and Drake, at this price, I think looks really, really good. And the reason why I said I don't think Zeke necessarily is a must-play is because you have Taylor, you have Miles Sanders, you have Kenny and Drake. You can just play all 3 of those guys in cash. But also, again, Zeke has enormous upside too. So those are probably the 4 running backs that I'm considering for cash. I'm going to play 3 of those 4 running backs for week 3. There are other options, right? Like I said, you can go to Connor, you can go to Eckler, but there is some worry there. Whereas those 4 running backs I mentioned, Zeke, Jonathan Taylor, Miles Sanders, and Kenny and Drake, those are the backs I'm looking to for cash. I'm going to play 3 of those 4 guys. Mixon playable in GPPs, but his workload hasn't been amazing. And if they're playing from behind, Gio has been getting more work, so that concerns me. I'm not going to pull the trigger on Mixon. I'm not going to go to Gurley. Melvin Gordon with no Philip Lindsay is playable, but I'm not super excited about playing him against Tampa Bay. I'm probably going to pass also with the backup quarterback too. It takes a hit. Montgomery's been good. It's a good matchup too, but if they do play from behind, it does worry me a bit. Maybe they phase him out a bit. Maybe they go to more Tariq Cohen. So playable in GPPs, but I feel more comfortable with those other backs I mentioned. David Johnson with possibly no Duke Johnson, another guy you can look to in GPPs, a tougher spot, but he got I think he got over 90% of the snaps in week 2 there with no Duke Johnson. So if Duke Johnson's out again, you can look to him at a cheap price point. Should be a workhorse back. I'm not going to go to the Rams running backs against the Bills. No James White. We'll talk about Burkhead. I think is playable as a cheap option. Dion Lewis, I'm not going to get to him in a tough spot here against San Francisco. Obviously, no Saquon. He should be their first down back, but they have Freeman, who they signed. They have Gallman too. I'm going to pump the brakes here, so I'm not going to go to Dion Lewis. Mike Davis, it's a tough spot, but he should be their number one back now with no Christian McCaffrey. He's a good pass catching back too. 8 catches and 8 targets last week, so he is playable. But do I want to play Mike Davis in cash, or I just feel more comfortable getting to Miles Sanders for a little bit more, to Kenyon Drake, to Taylor, or for Zeke for 3K more. So you can do it, but I just feel a little bit more comfortable with those guys above them. So someone you can, if you want to go there in cash, you can, but I'm not going to do it. Playable in both formats though, and should be their first and second down back. Obviously, good pass catching back as well. And I'm not going to get to the Rams backs. Kelly at 5K, good matchup. Playable. He is playable, right? 23 carries last game. I would, if I was going to play a Chargers back, though, I think I would just pay the extra couple thousand for Eckler, who I think his upside is more. But if you want to go Kelly and GPPs, again, he's getting 50% of the work right now. I'm not going to go to the Lions running backs there against Arizona. I'm not going to go to Ronald Jones or Gallman, right? Singletary intrigues me here with no Zach Moss. I think he does get more work. He's at a playable price, too, at 4-9. So he's a decent pass catching back, too. I think the workload does go up a little bit for Singletary. So another guy that is fringe cash game playable, because I think the workload does go up and the price is playable. So if you need someone cheap, Singletary is someone that you can definitely go to. I'm not going to play Hines or Snell. Gibson, another guy more playable in GPPs, has been Washington's best running back, but still not getting the full workload. Again, he's a good pass catching back, so you can look to him in GPPs. Sony Michel at 4-4, he's going to be their first and second down back, whereas Burkhead will be the guy that if they fall behind, they'll utilize him more. I would rather take the shot on Burkhead, who just has the higher floor due to his pass-catching abilities with no James White. Not playing Frank Gore. I'm not going to those backs. I guess the last guy I mentioned is Burkhead, right? So he was pretty solid last week. Had 4 catches on 6 targets. He's a good pass-catching back, and he will be utilized as the James White role. No James White. The flat man, too. I think he is playable as a cheap option, but I don't know if I can pull the trigger on him in cash games. So let's move on to wide receiver. Let's see. Well, there's a lot of really good plays in the mid-range that I think for cash games, that's where I'm leaning to. So, but if you have the salary to get to some of these guys in cash, you can go to there. Like Hopkins. If you're playing Kyler Murray, like where I'm leaning towards right now, you can pair him with Hopkins. Great matchup. 16-9 targets. A guy that can go to the red zone. Got to have interest there in Hopkins at 7-9. Not a real whole lot of downside to say other than, the price is, you're not really getting an amazing discount, but certainly someone you can look to. The upside is through the roof there. Julio, this is something to keep an eye on. Questionable, the hamstring injury. I'm not going to play him either way, but if he's out, you can go to Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley as a lower owned stack, but I don't think I can pull the trigger there in cash games due to the matchup. And just mentioned Ridley. He's been amazing. I think his targets maybe go up a little bit with no Julio if he is out, but matchup's not great. The Buffalo receivers, Diggs, has been really, really good, but I don't know if he continues this level of production. 9 and 13 targets is good to see. You can look to him in GPPs, but I feel more comfortable with some wide receivers that are cheaper. Thielen at 6-9, like I said, if you want to go that low-owned stack with him and Kirk Cousins, hope for a bounce back, fine. Thielen is their clear number 1. He's going to get targeted a bunch. So I'm fine with it, but I don't know if I can go there in cash. Mike Evans at 6-8, I was all over him last week with no Godwin. 7 catches, 10 targets. I think he's playable in this game, but my concern is Tampa Bay. If they play from ahead, they're really going to just pound the running game. We saw it in the second half there against Carolina. Like Mike Evans had all that production in the first half. The second half, it was just the Leonard Fournette show. They were just giving it to the running back every single play. So that is a concern playing against Denver. They should be playing from ahead. Denver playing with a backup quarterback. So that is my worry with these both Tampa Bay receivers in Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Juju and Deontay Johnson I think look good. I think I do slightly prefer Johnson for the discount, but both are playable in a great matchup here, and both at, again, pretty decent price points. So no issue with either of those Pittsburgh receivers. Now we get to the cash game plays, in my opinion. The Dallas and Seattle receivers. I mean, these guys are just way too cheap. And I think this is, you don't necessarily have to play these guys, but they look really, really good in cash. Cooper, Metcalf, Lockett. Like the target share, we know where Russell Wilson's looking to, right? It's DK, it's Lockett. And Dallas, it's Cooper. It's why am I blanking right now? Let's go to Dallas. It's Gallup. It's CeeDee Lamb. I mean, we know where those targets are going to, right? So I think all these receivers in this game look really, really, really good in both formats. But yeah, like all these guys in cash games, Cooper, Metcalf, Lockett, Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, all are playable at really, really nice price points in a game that should shoot out. So that's kind of where I'm looking to in cash games. I want exposure to this game, and I think all these guys look really good. So no issue with any of those guys that I mentioned. All 5 receivers in this game, I think, look amazing. Odell at 6'3". I just don't think I can go there. I just feel more comfortable with the receivers above him. Cooper Kupp, I do like the price, but the matchup's not great. Edelman intrigues me at 6'2". They have him listed as questionable. He's going to be good to go. 7 and 11 targets, a good matchup too, and a guy that Cam Newton has really liked going to. I think the floor is high with him. So I think Edelman's a really, really solid play here. I think you can go to him in cash. He will be lower owned in my opinion because I think those Dallas and Seattle receivers will eat up a bunch of the ownership. Allen Robinson is another guy that I like at 6'2". 9 targets the first couple weeks. Hasn't been great, only 3 and 5 catches, but like a game they probably will be playing from behind in. And like I said, I kind of like that stack of Trubisky and Allen Robinson. I think Allen Robinson will be somewhat popular, but I do really like him at this price point. I think a breakout game is coming, and maybe it's tomorrow. Galladay at 6'2". Dealing with the hamstring injury does worry me. I don't know if I can pull the trigger in cash. There's a lot of plays at a similar price I feel more comfortable with, but you can definitely go to Galladay, Stafford, stack in GPPs. That's going to be low owned if he does play. If he doesn't play, obviously you could look to a guy like Marvin Jones Jr. Other options, Keenan Allen 6'1". I like that stack with Herbert. I think you can do that in cash too if you want to. It's a great matchup. Like I said, I want to target players against this Carolina defense. Eckler, Keenan Allen, Herbert. Like I think all 3 look pretty good. You can even look to Mike Williams if you want to for cheap. But the 8 and 10 targets, like he's going to be a target monster here. So I do really like Keenan Allen at this price. Like I said, there's a lot. Like the 6K range at both running back and wide receiver is just amazing. That's where I'm going to be living in cash games. The Cincinnati, like I'm not going to get to AJ Green. Just still like dealing a little bit with the hamstring. I don't want to do it. Will Fuller, kind of the same thing. Always dealing with the injuries. I'm not going to go there. Boyd would be the Cincinnati receiver I would feel the most comfortable with, just because he's a guy that should get a good amount of targets here. So I'm fine with Boyd, but I feel a little bit more comfortable with those other receivers I mentioned. Marvin Jones Jr. is playable. I would like him a lot more if Galladay's out. So he's someone I would look to more, again, if Galladay does miss. John Brown, both receivers with him and Diggs have been really good. If you want to go back and if you think Josh Allen continues this level of production and go that stack, that's fine. But it's not going to be the way that I go. T.Y. Hilton, the whole grandma narrative. I don't know if you guys saw it on Twitter. His grandma was like, you got to play better. 5.6K price is very fair. 9 to 5 targets. Hasn't really had the breakout game yet, but this is a game that could definitely come. Now, my concern is they're huge favorites. And if they are playing from ahead, like Vegas thinks they are, it's going to be a heavy, heavy dose of Jonathan Taylor. So that is my worry with T.Y. Hilton. I'm not confident the Jets can score a lot of points. So, in the second half, I think it's going to be a lot of the running game. That is my concern with T.Y., but the upside is obviously there. Gallup hasn't been great for Dallas. He's been the one kind of letdown receiver so far. 5 targets first couple of games. I do feel a little bit more comfortable with CD out of the slot. Amari Cooper too. So Gallup would be the 3rd receiver. He's going to be the lowest owned of the 3. So if you feel confident enough, you want to go the contrarian option, Gallup is the guy. But right now I do have him 3rd on the pecking order for me. Probably CD and Amari Cooper ahead of me. I just feel a little bit more comfortable with those guys. Deontay Johnson's playable in both formats. 5'4", great matchup. 10 and 13 targets, guys, is absolutely insane. Like I said, a really, really good matchup. The price came up. I still like Deontay Johnson. So I think he's playable in both formats. I really, really like him this week. CeeDee Lamb, like I said, all the receivers in this game, I really like CeeDee. 6 and 9 targets first couple games. Should be a ton of points scored in this one. I think he's one of the better plays in both cash and GPP. No Sterling Shepard. We'll talk about Golden Tate, who I think is a viable cheap option. No Jameson Crowder. We'll talk about Braxton Berrios, who I mentioned last week, and a lot of you guys played, made good money. We'll talk about him again. He is also questionable, though, too, so Jets can be super, super thin. Deshaun Jackson at 5'2". 7 and 9 targets is good to see. I think he's playable if you want to pair him with Wentz. No Rieger, too. So, yeah, I don't mind Deshaun Jackson there. Corey Davis, price came up. I'm probably not going to get to him at 5.2, even though he is the number 1 receiver now. Gage, price went up. I'm probably not going to get to him either. I know he's been really, really solid the first couple of weeks. If Julio is out, it is a slight boost to Russell Gage. But I think I feel a little bit more comfortable with other receivers at his price. Let's see. Yeah, so Fitz at 4.6. We have no Christian Kirk. Don't really think it affects him too much. I think it more affects a guy like Andy Isabella, who I think is a viable punt. We'll get to him in a bit. But yeah, like I said, a good matchup here. And if you can't get to Hopkins and you want to pair someone with Kyler Murray, Fitz the guy that I think is a safe option. So I have no issue with Larry Fitzgerald here, 4.6. I think he's a decent play. Now, if you are playing Kyler, do you have to stack him with someone? I don't think so, because Kyler's a guy that can get it done on the ground. Amendola at 4.6, fine, but I feel a little bit more comfortable with some other value. If Galladay's out and you want to pair him with Stafford, he's playable. Now, Golden Tate, like I said, it's not a good matchup, but I actually think he's okay here. No Sterling Shepard. He should be a guy that they target a bunch. I think the price looks pretty decent on him. So Tate is a viable cheap option if you need someone in this range. I don't think he's gonna be super popular either. Let's see, Mike Williams. Yeah, like I said, 4.3 is a dual price. Wasn't great last week, but matchup's amazing. Herbert, playable price. If you can't get to Keenan Allen and you want to pair Herbert with someone, Mike Williams is a guy that you can definitely look to. Now, N'Keal Harry, I think is gonna be somewhat popular, but I'm looking to as a cheap option as well. 6 and 12 targets first couple of weeks here. Good matchup here against Las Vegas. Now, he is questionable with the ankle injury, which is something to keep an eye on. We'll talk about Damari Bird as well, who's at the flat min, who I like his cheap option on this slate. And no Rieger. Let's see. Other options like Curtis Samuel. I don't love the matchup, but I think they will utilize him a bit on the ground with no Christian McCaffrey. He did have 4 carries last week. He's played in over 70% of the snaps too. I like that he's playing out of the slot, and that the offensive coordinator said that he wants to get Samuel involved more. So I don't think Curtis Samuel is going to be that popular, but he's like a cheap option, a lower owned option that I like the upside even in a tough spot. So Samuel's someone I'm considering here. Yeah, Humphreys is playable at 3.9. He's the number 2 receiver, 7 and 6 targets first couple weeks. Minnesota defense, nothing to be scared of at all. So I think Humphreys is someone you can certainly look to as a cheap option. Andy Isabella, right, with no Christian Kirk. He should be their number 3 receiver. Cardinals love running through wide receiver sets, so I think he will get a good amount of snaps. I think he's playable. He has big play upside too. So yeah, I have no issue with Andy Isabella if you want to go that route. I guess they did hop over. Let me go to Las Vegas really quick. My issue with Las Vegas and the receivers is they just spread it out a lot. No Ruggs, sure, is a boost. Renfro, don't really know if that affects him too much. He'll still play out of the slot. I'm not super excited about him. Bryan Edwards, probably the snaps do go up on him a bit, but only 1 and 2 targets first couple weeks. They have Aguilar, they have Zay Jones. If you want to take a shot on one of these guys, that's fine. But like I said, they really spread it out, and Waller is their clear guy that they're going to look to. So I still am not super excited about the Raiders receivers here. Let's see, back to the cheap options. Let's go to the Jets, and then we'll talk about Bird. Well, let's first talk about Damari Bird. He's the flat min price. 9 targets last week, 6 catches. If N'Keal Harry's out, that's even a bigger boost to him, in my opinion. 85% of the snaps. Really like Bird. I think at the flat min, he looks good here. Now, my concern with this Patriots offense is if they're playing from ahead. If they're playing from ahead, they will play really slow. So that is a concern, but min price, starting receiver, good matchup. I do like Bird for tomorrow. And lastly, we'll talk about the Jets receivers. So the Jets have kind of been a dumpster fire, but there are some options in the slate. Like I said, Berrios was the guy I mentioned, and a lot of you guys got to. 6 catches, 8 targets, playing out of the slot. They love going to their slot receivers. So if he's available to play, he's dealing with a hamstring injury. If he's available, I think he's certainly someone you can look to here at 3.6. Sam Darnold, again, loves going to the guys in the slot. No Crowder, no Perriman. Chris Hogan probably will be their number 1 receiver. Had 8 targets last week. The Jets should be playing from behind. I'm fine with Chris Hogan for value. Also, Josh Malone will probably be the number 3 receiver. He had 6 targets. Like I said, the Jets are just a dumpster fire that they should be playing from behind. So I think all 3 of these Jets receivers are certainly in play here if you need a cheap option. So that's really it for wide receiver. Let's finish up with tight end. No Kittle. Jordan Reed, playable. My concern with Jordan Reed, we'll talk about, I guess we'll go to right now. He had a really good week, and I talked about him last week. But What concerned me was what came out before week 2 was they were still not going to utilize him a ton. They said 15 to 20 snaps. I think he got like 25 snaps. Now he got utilized a ton. 7 catches, 8 targets. It's amazing to see, but it's just the snaps, right? I don't think he continues that level of production, also playing with a backup quarterback too. So, yeah, Reed's playable, but those are the concerns there. Higbee, I'm not going to chase that game against Buffalo. Waller, I like a 5-7. Obviously, knee injury does worry me a bit. I think he's going to be good to go. 8 and 16 targets. We're not going to get 16 targets again, but I have interest in Darren Waller. No Ruggs, too. That's a slight boost to Waller, so I think he's playable in both formats. Hawkinson at 5-3 is fine, but not really getting him at a discount. Juju Smith, yeah, again, playable, but did have 2 touchdowns. Definitely boosted his production last week, and the price went way up. So not super excited about that. I think Ertz actually looks decent. Hasn't had a breakout game yet, but 7 targets first couple weeks. Good matchup too. Price is playable. I have interest in Zach Ertz. I think I like him. I think the big game is coming from him. Goddard, if you want to go to him. He's been the slightly better tight end, but both Philly tight ends I think are playable. Hunter Henry I think looks decent too. Like I said, 8 targets first couple weeks. Cheap price point, great matchup. You can definitely pair him with Herbert if you can't get to Keenan Allen or Mike Williams. So I think Hunter Henry looks like a pretty decent play here at that price. Dalton Schultz, like I said, if you want a cheap option in this game, try to get as much exposure to this game in cash games. 10 targets, 9 catches. Great matchup, 4.5K price to come up, but he is their clear #1 tight end. So I think he is someone that you can definitely look to. Probably not get to Hooper, or Ebron, or Olsen. Again, mentioned Jordan Reed. Jack Doyle is questionable. I think he's going to be good to go. If he's out, you could look to a guy like Mo Alley Cox. Logan Thomas, right now, he's like the cheap option that I'm looking to. 8 and 9 targets the first couple weeks. Really, really good to see. Washington likes to get this guy the ball. He will line up in the slot a decent amount. He's a big body receiver. They can go to him in the red zone. Yeah, I do think Logan Thomas is a pretty good play here at this price. Definitely one of my favorite cheap tight end plays. If you want to go to Drew Sample, no CJ Uzomah, I think that's perfectly fine. 9 targets, 7 catches, kind of in garbage time, but he's clearly the guy I think they will utilize a good amount. So I have no issue there with Drew Sample if you want to go to him for cheap. Herndon, I think, is an interesting bounce back spot here. He did block a lot, which is a little bit concerning, but the Jets receivers are just so thin. They should be playing behind here. So I'm fine with him. If you want to go back to the ball, the ownership is going to drop. He's a talented wide receiver. So I still think Herndon is playable. Gronk at 3-3 just hasn't really flashed the upside. If you want to take a dart throw on him in GPP is fine, but nothing I can really recommend with confidence. I think that really wraps up for tight ends. So lastly, we'll talk about defense and we'll get out of here. So defense, there are a few options. If you want to spend down, there's no real clear spend down defense really for me. Like if you want to play the mid-price Jets defense, fine, and hope they don't kill you. Like what you're really looking for there is like 4 fantasy points. If you want more play in the mid-range for defense, I have interest in the Giants. Going up against a backup quarterback there in San Francisco, 2.7K I think is very fair. I think the Eagles are going to be very popular going up against a rookie quarterback. I think they're a fine defensive play. Let's see. I'm not going to go to either Seahawks or Dallas defense in that type of matchup or in a game that should be a lot of points scored. Let's see. Other options for defense. I think the Bills are fine at 3-4. 49ers at 3-5. Bucks going up against backup quarterback at 3-7. Really, once you get to like these top range defenses, there's not a whole lot of downside. If you want to go to the Colts against the Jets, who've been terrible, or the Titans against the Vikings, who've really been struggling. But really, for me right now, where I'm looking, I think I'm leaning towards like the Giants. I think the Eagles look pretty good too. Or if you want to spend all the way down for Jets, they're fine as well. But I think that's really going to do it for the video today, guys. So if you have been enjoying the content this far, I really appreciate it. If you leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, hit that notification bell so you know when I upload videos, you know when I go live. I will be live streaming for this one, I think an hour and a half before lock. So I'm going to be a long live stream. I think it's going to be on Twitch, though, with my friend Connor Jones. I think we're going to do a dual stream. So I will tweet out the link, guys. But yeah, an hour and a half long stream. Make sure to check it out. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. I will tweet it out. but probably going to be live for an hour and a half tomorrow, going over everything and answering any questions you guys have at the end. So thanks again, guys. Hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you all tomorrow in the live stream.